So now that I'm relatively satisfied with this visualization, remember nothing's set in stone. Anything can be changed or deleted or rearranged. But let's say we're relatively satisfied with this worksheet and this data visualization for now. So let's go ahead and make it slightly more permanent by giving it a title. I'm just going to say borrower category by month checkouts. And again, anything can be changed. This is just kind of a starting place. And you can format this using different fonts, sizes, etc. And I'm going to get rid of that little title just because it wasn't doing a whole lot for me. And then down here on the lower part of the screen where it says sheet 1, I'm going to also name that so that I can find it easily in as we move forward. Borrower times month. So now we're ready to move on. Let's create one more visualization to play with, and then I will turn you loose. So let's go ahead and click New Worksheet. This time let's look at, I don't know, format. This is item material format, so like books or videos, things like that. Let's just bring up our number of records under measures up here to rows. And we can see, I'm going to just spread this out just a little bit by going to the bottom to this double-headed arrow so I can see things a little better. I think that'll do for now. But you can see journals, maps, mixed material. In music, they're not checked out a whole lot, and most of our journals are actually accessed through our databases, or typically journals aren't something that can be checked out except if you're a faculty member, which is why the counts are so low. Most often somebody may request a specific article be photocopied if it cannot be found online. But maybe we don't really want to look at every single type of material, just look at the visual, like that's the DVDs and the books. So let's go ahead and say for filter, under format, let's say show filter. That's going to give us our choices over here on the right hand side. And let's click this downward arrow to the right of this box and say multiple values drop down. It's just a little easier to look at. And then I'm going to deselect everything and then say books and visual materials is really all I want to look at. Now maybe we want to see, look at what types of borrowers like to borrow what types of materials. So let's drag borrower category up behind format. So now we can see books and visual materials, and then we have our borrower types. And let's go ahead and create a second filter for that. So we're going to go under borrower category and say show filter. And let's click that downward arrow on the right side of the screen to make it a drop-down list. And maybe we only want to look at our key borrowers, not some of those other groups that only have very few borrowers in them. Let's look at the undergraduate students. Freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. This is interesting. You can see that our undergraduates really seem to be checking out more visual materials like our DVDs than books. I did not realize that. And you can see that these freshmen, juniors, seniors, and sophomores are kind of a strange order. I'm going to just click on sophomore. Oops, that didn't work so well. Actually, I'm going to turn this graph on its side for a minute. Just using this little key up here. Doing so makes it easier to rearrange the order of your records or your categories. So we have freshmen on top. Let's do sophomores next, juniors, and seniors. So that looks better. I'm trying to drag this. I have the hardest time getting that double-headed arrow. So now we can look at it like this. Over here under labels, we can say show mark labels so we get the actual numbers. If we wanted to look at borrower category and then format, we can take a look here to see how things compare by type of borrower. Let's bring in our faculty and see how they compare. So our faculty are more interested in the books, and not so many are checking out the visual materials. But our students, particularly our seniors, are checking out the visual materials far more than anybody else. The seniors have it figured out. And again, if we wanted to look at format first and then borrower type, we could rearrange that. And if we wanted to turn it back so it's up and down, we could do that. If you wanted to sort high to low, you could click here, up here on top where there's a not stacked, columns with a downward arrow or bars with a downward arrow. Here's what I mean. I'm sorry, I just didn't say that very succinctly at all. So now it's sorted high to low, or you could sort over here low to high. It's sort of low to high. That is not a foolproof way. But when we are looking at type of borrower, I would tend to sort them, or I would organize them more in an order that makes sense to me. So now I'm reordering these back to freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, faculty. Let's bring in our graduate students. So we have our master's students and our PhD students. It looks like our PhD students don't have any time to be watching movies. And they're not checking out books so much, which really isn't much of a surprise. Most of the PhD students I know spend their time looking at journals, online journals most typically. And then we could look at these other ways to organize our data. We could look at just in a nice little simple tabular form. I clicked up here. And then you can turn the table on its side too. If you wanted to see the freshmen, if you wanted to see totals by type and by user type and format type, you could go under here under analytics on the left side of the screen. Click on totals, and then you see we can do a row total and a column total. We can do both. So column total will give us the grand total of books in the 6 months and the grand total of visual materials in the 6 months. And then back over here under analytics and totals, we can do row grand totals as well. So now we can see over here the totals for freshmen on up through PhD students. And then if you wanted to sort those by high to low, that's super easy. Under grand total, you get this little box here, or this little sort of high to low icon. Just click on that and it sorts it highest to lowest, or you can resort it lowest to highest. So once again, that's a pretty nifty little graphic. I'm going to say borrower type by material format. And I'm just making it bold so it stands out a little more. So I'm down here on the bottom, I'm saying borrower times format. I'm going to go ahead and save this. It's called Class 10 in Class Exercise. And I think I'm going to call it a wrap for the night, with the tutorials anyway.